Hi, my name is Ruth and this is Fae Hollow Homestead. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing part of a three-part series on taking a look at my library of books of homesteading, books of gardening, books of herbs, and then foraging and stuff like that. And so I'm just going to kind of give you my highest recommended books on these subjects because I believe in reading a lot. And so, and I also believe in having a lot of resources on hand. And so we live in an area where we only just got internet a couple of months ago. And so having books like this was really, really important. I think it's really important to have books on hand in case the power goes out, in case you're not able to go online and be able to see the things that you would normally Google or research or something like that, okay? Also, we had a baby duck hatch yesterday and he is the only one, and so this is little baby Igor and he needs love and companionship, and so I'm just kind of keep him with me so that he doesn't get lonely. So anyway, and then you'll probably hear my kids in the background as they make noises as children do. Okay, so Igor, you ready? I'm gonna set you down. Okay, yeah, okay. He's got a little case of wry neck, and so having him, we're trying to rehabilitate him with some vitamins. We think he's vitamin deficient. Okay, so the first things that I want to go over with you guys is I have some really awesome foraging books, and so I really believe in wild harvesting as much as you can and being able to wild harvest things, because there are things that grow out in the forest, out in the fields, in your lawn that are really great for eating. They're really great for medicinals. I always think that, there's always that chance that you might get lost in the woods or something. You want to be able to kind of know what's going on around you so that you can survive, hopefully. So I definitely believe in being prepared, that's for sure. So one of my favorite books, and this is kind of an old one, this is called Stalking the Wild Asparagus. I got this from book sale for like 25 cents. But it goes over different kind of mushrooms. It goes over trees, things that you can eat from trees, elderberries, chicory, like all these wild foods. That's really good. How to cook a carp, like it talks about how to fish and how to harvest things in the wild when you're out there. And this is by oh my goodness, what is his name? Gibbons. The sticker is over his name, so I think it's Ewell Gibbons. But this is a really, really great resource. This is one of the best foraging books that I've ever come across. This is something that my dad read when he was a kid. I mean, this is a really good, strong knowledge book right here. If you're going to own anything, I would own this one. Okay, this is also another one. This is by Samuel Thayer. Baby. Here we go. There we go. He likes being next to skin. Okay, this is called The Forager's Harvest. This is a guide to identifying, harvesting, and preparing. That's a big deal too. Some of them don't talk to you about how to prepare them. Edible wild plants. Now, the nice thing about this book is that it's got color pictures in it. And I think when you're identifying wild plants, it's really important to have color pictures, because you could have a completely wrong plant and not know it because it looks like one in a black and white photo, but then it's actually not because it's the wrong color entirely. So it gives you, stinging nettles, like it's a really good one. And I think that it gives a really good overview of a lot of varied different types of plants out in the wild, things that you need to stay away from, and then also having that color photo is really important. Okay, this one is Edible Wild Plants. This is specific to North America. This is really great because, again, it has these color pictures. It does not go into as great of detail as this one does, but it has more plants in it. So this one has less plants, but it goes into greater detail. This one has more. I keep this with me in my backpack, and you can tell that it got wet. It's definitely like a little bit cracky and crackly. I keep this one with me if I'm ever going to go out into the woods, just as like a handy quick guide. And I would just say, of course, don't ever eat anything that you're not 100% sure. Like if you go to the, I heard it described one time, like you go to the fridge and you take an orange out of it and someone says, that's not an orange. And if you can look at them and say, yeah, I know this is an orange. I'm completely positive this is an orange. This is an orange because look at the rind, look at the smell, the way that I peel it, look what's inside. These are the seeds. If you are so confident with the plant out in the wild as you would be as if you were holding an orange and somebody was trying to dissuade you that it was an orange, then you can eat it. Don't eat anything if you're not that confident with it though. Okay, so this is a Elias and Dykman. This is by Sterling. This is Edible Wild Plants of North America. This is a really good one. Okay, so let's see. This is in the wrong spot. Okay, this is another good one. I really like old books. I think that there are a lot of really wise things that have gotten lost over the years. There's also a lot of new stuff that is valuable that we didn't know before. And so I like the new books and I like the old books. So this is called Eat the Weeds. This is really good. This is really good. So, I mean, it goes into things like dandelion, wild rose, cattails, watercress, acorns, how to use them, how to eat them. And they describe it as a fascinating guide to sources of free, flavorful, and delicious food. So Ben Charles Harris wrote this. It's got a ton of information, like a ton of information. And it's not just about food. There's some very useful plants in here that are not edible, that they talk about how you can use them for your daily life. And I think this is just a really, really great resource to have. I don't have a ton of foraging books. I just have the ones that I think are like the most valuable, the best ones that I could see from research. So this is another amazing book. This is called Wildwood Wisdom. Ellsworth Yeager, I believe. So this is more like a survival book, I guess, but it also teaches you about foraging. But there's so much practical wisdom in this. I think if you're going to have any kind of survival book at all, I think this would be the one that you'd want to have. And it's very, very all-inclusive. So it talks about even if you want to build like a canoe, like it goes into figuring out like what different tracks are, what's making the different tracks, how to track things, how to tie knots, how to start fires, you know, how to make weapons, how to cook over a fire, how to make a shelter, and also how to do all sorts of things. Basically old wisdom, Native American wisdom, stuff like that, on how to survive in the wild. It's really good stuff. Okay, so I think the Peterson field guides are incredibly important, and I have these for mushrooms, for trees, for wildflowers, for reptiles, for all sorts of stuff. I love the Peterson field guides. I think that these are a very valuable collection to have. I love this baby duck. And so this is the Peterson Field Guide for Edible Wild Plants. Now this is great because Peterson is just high quality and it's going to go into great detail about a lot of different things. They have the really great little keys on the side so that you can see, the different at a glance type of things that you're looking for. But a lot of the pictures in here are drawn, and so they're not pictures taken, they're not color. They have a few colored pictures in here, but I would recommend having this and putting it along with the Edible Wild Plants book and bringing those together if you're going to go out on a hike or something like that and just kind of do some foraging, because this has the color pictures you can cross-reference, and there's a lot of information in the Peterson guide that is not in this one, and vice versa. So these are a great pair to have together if you're going to go out and forage. Okay, so those are basically my foraging books. The Edible Wild Plants also has, the Peterson's Field Guide also has some mushrooms in it, but I would recommend doing a specific mushroom field guide and then having two of those. I have two mushroom ones. One is actually a Peterson one, and then there's another one, I forget what the other one is, what the brand is or the publisher is for that one, but always cross-reference. And then I don't only just cross-reference the two, but I also look at YouTube videos. I also look at different papers online that I can find about them, and I make sure that I know very well. And if I'm not 100% sure, like this is an orange, you know, this mushroom is edible, then I do not eat it, and I do not store it, and I do not keep it. Sometimes I will gather them and dry them just because they're beautiful, but that's about it. Okay, so those are my foraging books that I really enjoy. Little baby is sleeping now. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about my homesteading books, okay? Hey, sweetheart. Now, these are not all my homesteading books. If I ever go to like book sales, which I go to a lot, yard sales, stuff like that, I'll look things up on Amazon, do like the used books things, and if it's a book that I really, really want, then I'll buy it new if I need it. But these are my favorite homesteading books, and there's quite a lot of them. There's about 10 here these are my favorite ones, and that I'm most grateful for. I'm trying to do this with one hand because this little baby duckling's sleeping. Okay, so the first thing about homesteading is, I believe, trying to create a food source for your family that is nutrient dense, that is wholesome, organic, that is on hand, and you don't have to rely on any other sources for it. And so in order to have that type of situation going on, you need to be able to preserve food. And this is one of the best books on preserving food that I have found. So this does specifically without freezing or canning, which canning is great if you have all the materials. Freezing is great if you have the extra freezer space, but what happens if you don't? And there's a lot of people, people back in the day, they didn't do this type of preserving, and yet they still had food throughout the winter and through the dry months. So there's a lot of really great traditional techniques in this book, and it goes into great detail. It's a really great resource. So it talks about how to do preserving food using salt, oil, sugar, alcohol, vinegar, drying. By the way, vinegar is so easy to make. It's so easy to make. Drying, cold storage, and lactic fermentation. And fermentation is one of my favorite ways to store things. I think it's one of the most nutrient-dense ways that you can eat things. And so the whole idea behind this is it's nutritious, delicious, and you don't necessarily have to have electricity in order to preserve your food with the ways that they show you in this. And so really great stuff here. Really, really great stuff. I highly recommend this book. I'm going to highly recommend all 10 of these books because I have a plethora of other ones, but these are the ones that I like the most. So, preserving food without freezing and canning. The Gardeners and Farmers of Terry Vivante, I think. It's done by Chelsea Green, I think. Chelsea Green Publishing, that's who does that book. Okay. Now, I really think that having a few encyclopedias, I have encyclopedias for homesteading, encyclopedias for herbs, encyclopedias for gardening, stuff like that. I think having a few of those is important so that you can kind of cross-reference, and sometimes they'll have certain information in one that the other one doesn't have, and vice versa. And so This is a really great encyclopedia for homesteading. And homesteading is good because it just kind of gives like an overview of everything that would need to happen on a homestead. It also gives like the idea of how things can work together. So if you get just a gardening book, it'll show you how to work with the garden, but it won't necessarily say, hey, put your chicken coop near the garden so that you can throw all your weeds into the chicken coop and the chickens will eat it, you know, stuff like that. So this is the ultimate guide to homesteading, an encyclopedia of independent living. This goes into buying land, water purification, logging, homeschooling, herbal medicine, canning, choosing breeds for animals that you want on your property, nomadic shelters, seed storage, that's a big deal, seed storage, pottery, sewing, and other lost arts. So this is really cool. This has got like a lot of old school stuff going on in it, okay? So there's diagrams, charts, photographs, very comprehensive. And I like the way that they go about it in this one. I think it's really well done. There's a lot of pictures. There's ways, you know, they teach you things about like making biodiesel even. I mean, seriously, like horse keeping, chicken coops, you know, guardian dogs. Talk about Great Pyrenees. We have Great Pyrenees. We love our Great Pyrenees. Foraging at home, like I mean, this is really good stuff. And so this is a great encyclopedia for homesteading. And then there's also, this is the other, okay, so there's a few encyclopedias that I really like. This is great. Try to do this while I'm holding my duck. Okay, so this is an old school one, and like I was saying, I really like old books as well as new books. I think both have benefits. This is the Home and Farm Manual, Classic Edition. Homesteading might actually be an addiction for me. So it's for the farm, garden, and household. So there's a lot of household things too that goes with homesteading that you don't necessarily think about right away. And this just has that old feel to it as well. It talks about everything that you could possibly need, like orchards, vineyards, gardening, how to put up a fence, how to preserve food, how to beekeep. I mean, all sorts of things. Now, there's no color pictures in this, but it's definitely there's illustrations and it's good stuff. And this one smells like an old book, which makes me happy. I believe in definitely when you're doing homesteading, you gotta have books that have all the old wisdom in them because they did it for thousands of years in a certain way for a certain reason. And so there you go. Okay, so the other one, this is like my favorite. This is like the Bible for me. This is the Bible for homesteading. The Encyclopedia of Country Living. This is the original manual, it says, for living off the land and doing it yourself. This literally has all the things. I mean, it even talks about like if you're on your property with, you know, doing your homestead and somebody dies, how do you prepare the body and bury it the proper way and why it's important and the laws that go into that. I mean, like that's stuff that you're not going to see in other books. Anyway, so it talks about some really great stuff. I mean, it even teaches you how to drive a tractor. And the way that they present this book is so engaging that I read this way before that we ever started our homestead. And it was like reading a novel almost. Or maybe it's just because I'm such a geek and nerd over this, but it talks about canning. It teaches like all sorts of really wonderful things. This has got to be, like, if you're going to do homesteading, you're going to have a homesteading encyclopedia. This is the one that I would suggest first off and foremost. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Carla Emery is the one that does this. Really, really, really incredible book. So if you're going to do a homesteading book, that's the one that you want first and foremost, I would say. I just got to talk about this one a little bit more. Like, this goes into so much detail. It talks about individual crops that you can have, how to save their seeds specifically, like different recipes to use them for. I mean, stuff like Celtis. I mean, not a lot of books talk about Celtis. how to preserve them in different ways. And then, like, I mean, it's just really like there's so many recipes in here, and there's so many great ideas on how to garden and mulch, and how to take care of animals, and how to take care of your tools, and measurements and equivalents, and like, anyway, I just love that book so much. Really, really good one. Okay, and then my second favorite one is this one. I think a lot of people would agree with me on this one. This is John Seymour, The Self-Sufficient Life and How to Live It, the Complete Back to Basics Guide. So this is the expanded version, and it included apparently 100 pages from the new Self-Sufficient Gardener. Anyways, this goes in with the idea that nothing should be wasted, and so you use everything, and how to kind of create a copacetic situation on your homestead, so everybody is using all the things in the right way so that everybody gets the most benefit from it. And it's really, I mean, it's really good. Pest control, there's gardening stuff, how to make cheese and yogurt and ice cream, and when to sow and plant, and how to use fuel from waste, how to make fuel from waste, what about solar energy kind of stuff, how to worm compost. Like, there's some really, really great stuff in here, making bread. This is a really incredible book. So this book and this book was basically the first two books that I bought when I decided that my dream was to have a homestead one day. And I read these like they were novels. I went from the first page and I went all the way to the end. And this was my nighttime reading, and my husband giggled at me because I'm such a nerd, and everything that I talked to him about, though, he just absolutely loved it too. So he's nerding out with me. He just is gleaning the information from me telling him rather than having to read the books too. So those are incredible books. Okay, so also if you're gonna have animals, barnyard in your backyard, this is really great if you have not a ton of land. If you've got, you know, hundreds of acres to farm and put animals on, this is not necessarily the book that you'd want. So this is more like a hobby farm. We're gonna be more of a hobby farm type of thing. We're not going to end up with 800 goats. That's just not going to happen. We might end up with, you know, 3. We're going to have, you know, maybe 5 miniature cattle, which is actually what's going to bring me to the next book that I show you. But this is really great. It teaches you like things that you want to look for when you're buying animals, selecting animals, how to hatch eggs, you know, ways to take care of health problems, how to arrange your animals so that they are working together well. Like there's a system, a permaculture system actually for animals, where, you know, you have the cows and you do like a rotating system between different paddocks. And so the cows go into one, and then after a certain amount of days, you move them into the next area. And then you have, you know, the goats come in and they get the stuff that the cows didn't eat, because they eat different kinds of grass. And then you have them go into the next system, you rotate them, and then the chickens come in a certain amount of days after the cows go in, which is like the exact amount of days that takes all the flies that lay eggs in the manure that the cows leave for them to hatch. And so the chickens get in there and they get the larvae of those flies. You don't have to worry about flies anymore, and they kick apart the manure patties so that it kind of spreads out the manure across the grass. Like there's a really great copacetic system for rotating land, so that or the rotating animals on land, so that you can have an easier, healthier system with less pests, and everybody's happier, animals included. And so this is really great because it kind of goes over all the different kind of animals that you would really expect to have at a hobby farm homestead type thing. So that's wonderful. And so this brings me to, I love the storybooks, right? So Story's Guide to Raising Miniature Livestock. So what we want on our land is basically we want to have mini cows. And there's not a whole lot of books out there on mini cows. I mean, you can find them, but this is the one that I wanted to get the most because we might end up having like mini donkeys too. That would be just for fun because they're not going to really protect the property. You can't use a miniature donkey to protect your livestock. They're just so cute. But this is good for miniature goats, sheep, donkeys, pigs, horses, cattle, llamas, stuff like that. I mean, like really good stuff. And we want to have mini cattle for a lot of reasons. If you look into mini cattle, there's this idea that they're anything miniature is going to be less hardy, but actually miniature cattle are more hardy and they are easier to take care of and they are less disease prone. They have easier births. You can get more meat per acre. You can, like they're easier to handle, anyway. I'm excited about having miniature cattle. So this is what I'm using for that, and Stories Guide books are always just absolutely phenomenal. So Sue Weaver is the one that really went into the detail on that. This is 5 Acres and a Dream. This is kind of like a novel. This is not really like a I mean, it's kind of a how-to. I mean, she talks about why she does things the way that she does, but this is kind of just like a story about a woman and her family, and they decided to make a homestead and how they went about creating that homestead. And so it's very inspiring. It's a really good, I mean, she explains why she does everything and her reasoning behind it, and some of the pitfalls that they came across and they weren't expecting, and some they did expect, and I mean, she even has like the map of her land and how they decided that they wanted to lay out their homestead so that it would be kind of in a permaculture system, make it easier for their lives. And then how that changed over the years because of living conditions, the weather conditions, things that changed in their needs and stuff like that. And so this is a really great book if you want to be inspired and you want to kind of get in the mindset of what it's like to have a homestead, either while you're building your own homestead, while you have your own, or if you're dreaming about having a homestead at one point. So I would highly recommend this. This is by Lee Tate, and I mean, this is a really great book. I would highly recommend this one. I like reading that one. And then these are some of the more modern books. So we did some of the old school stuff. So this is the Backyard Homestead. They have a whole series of books. I have all of them because I'm kind of a book hoarder. So the Backyard Homestead is really good. It talks a lot about it's kind of like an encyclopedia. It talks about a lot of modern methods, and modern methods are not to be laughed at. There are some really great new ways of doing stuff that is great, and there's reasons why they're revolutionary, right? Old stuff is good too. I mean, there's a lot of really old, tried and true methods, and so this is one of those newer ones. It has some of the old stuff, but it's got a lot of new stuff in it too, and it kind of lays things out easily for people who are trying to homestead for certain purposes. So it talks about like on an acre, if you plant this many things, you'll get this much harvest if all goes well, which can feed this many people for this many days if you prepare it in a certain way. So it really does well, and it's based on a small backyard, not a big homestead. This is based on like a quarter of an acre kind of thing, which is great because we got a lot of land, but we don't have a lot of land that we are able to use because we're on the side of a mountain. So anyway, this is a really cool book. I like this one a lot. Okay, so the last one, my son just took the baby duck and brought him to get some water and stuff. This is another book that's for like a specifically small homestead. So this is Mini Farming, Self-Sufficiency on a Quarter of an Acre. And if you can do self-sufficiency on a quarter of an acre, wow, that's awesome. So thank you so much for watching. I've got a ton more, but these are the ones that I felt like were the most important to share with you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please do the like, the subscribe, and the notification button, please. That would help me a lot. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day and stay blessed.